Hello, friends. Happy Friday. Of course, right when I start this live video, my phone setup is having some problems getting adjusted. Okay, cool. I am super excited to be sharing a fun conversation with you today. In just a moment, I will have Zachariah joining me, and we are going to talk about the importance of finding and clearing a path out of the woods. Hi, Sydney. All right. So I'm going to invite Z on, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about today. All right, let's see if this works. This is my first time adding someone into my Facebook Live, so yay!
Yay.
Awesome. Thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Yay. Okay, cool. So the reason why I wanted to do this live with Z is because a lot of what I teach in my course and to all of my clients is about getting into alignment and how important it is. And that's really a huge gift that Zachariah gave to me and our work together. It was like radical alignment. And when I was in Hawaii a couple weeks ago, I was so aligned and just feeling the magic of the universe and totally held by God in like every moment. And then I had like a really triggering experience because my family was there, and the contrast between how good I was feeling all day, every day, and then the like even slight disharmony in a conversation between myself and my family was shocking. And I was just thrown for such a loop. And so I called Z, and what he shared with me in that conversation just felt so huge. And I knew that I wasn't the only one who would really, really get all of the value of what you had shared with me. So I felt really inspired to do a little live. Hi, Tiffany. Yay, we have Sydney and Tiffany and Lindsay. Like all of our best friends are here with us. So that's exciting. So yeah, I just wanted to share the conversation that we had and expand upon it for anyone who's listening and might find this a really valuable topic. So the most profound piece that you shared with me was similar to what I posted earlier, was about clearing the path out of the woods. And so can you share with me a little bit about what we were talking about and what you meant by that?
Yeah, so it's my very real understanding because I actually remember coming to Earth and I remember what I was here for. I actually remember the moment of the decision and everything that was involved in that. So it's like, it's not a theory to me why we're here. We're here, many of us, are probably the same ones who would be watching this, by the nature of this, is we're here to take all that has been forgotten in this very dense world that we live in. It's very disconnected from the rest of the whole truth, and rejoin it with the rest of the whole picture, the rest of awareness. Some people would say to remember, as in to put the pieces back together. And so since that's our job, we can't leave anything behind. We can't leave pieces of ourself, which is everyone. If oneness is a thing, if you can look at the universe as one whole cohesive piece, one thing that is almost like an organism that is connected, we can't leave pieces of ourself behind and expect to remember everything. Every piece has to come home. And so for those of us, some people use words like starseed, things like that. I'm totally fine with any of those terms. Those of us who came from a more complete vision or a higher vibration came into this very limited perspective of the physical world in order to find our way back to the truth from within the story. And I love using the analogy of like we parachuted into this jungle of the physical world and this limited view of consciousness, where once we're on the ground, all we can see is just jungle. All we see is this gnarly, crazy physical world with all the dramas and all the experiences. And it becomes very easy to get lost in the idea that we're just a physical body, that's what the I am is. And that if this body gets hurt or dies or anything, or doesn't reproduce or isn't loved or is rejected from society, that will die. because all we can see is myself outside of my eyes and then all of this other out there, and it's scary. You know, there's jungle cats and there's dangerous plants and there's all these things. And so we think, you know, I need to be loved, I need a tribe, I need to survive. And there's all this fear and discordant energy that comes with having our perspective be so limited. Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. So, you know, bringing this back to kind of like the experience I was having where I felt really, you know, triggered by my mother at the time. And it's very challenging for me to be in a state of drama with anyone, especially someone that I love so deeply. And so for me, having this expanded awareness and feeling responsible for maintaining my own vibration and a harmonious energy just between myself and the entire world, it felt very rattling when I could see that the words I was saying were aligned and kind, but the energy I was carrying behind them did not feel that way. It was like you're coming from a place of defense and then you're using pretty language to express what it is that you want to say. And it really, really hurt me to be in a place of disharmony at all. And so, you know, what you had shared with me to do was something I already had started to do, but the why that you shared really helped me understand why I was doing what I was doing, and that it was okay. So essentially what I did was get off the subject. I took a break and just said, I love you and I'm going to go take care of myself right now. And so what I did was drive to a vegan restaurant with really high vibe food. And I had planned to get a massage after. And I was going to go take care of myself really well, because what I know to do is to get into alignment. I know that that's the only place from which I get to be who I want to be in the world, is when I'm really, really in my own alignment. And I know very well how to get there because it's something that I've committed to for years now. And there was still a part of me that knew the way that we left that conversation didn't feel good for either of us. And so as I was going to go get myself in alignment, I felt this like guilt for my mother maybe feeling some pain at the end of our conversation, that it wasn't totally resolved. And so part of me was like, well, who the fuck are you to go take good care of yourself if somebody you love is hurting from a conversation that you just had? And so I was feeling guilty about even attempting to go get myself into alignment. And then, you know, what you shared with me about being plopped into the middle of the jungle and being able to clear the path from where I was in that moment, that, and the conversation that you and I were having about it, was actually the thing that was moving a tremendous amount of energy that was stuck or disharmonious between my mother and I. And that it actually was the most loving thing for me to do, to go get into alignment, so that when I revisited the subject, I could come to it from a place of truth and love and, you know, my own safety.
Yeah.
So yeah, or can you share just more about that? Because I just remember sitting in the car and being like, oh, this feels like full permission to really go take care of myself, even when I don't feel like I deserve it, or there's still something to be cleaned up over there.
Right. So without describing the entire universe, I'll use analogies to make it faster. If anyone wants a deeper description, we can talk about that some other time. You know, the universe, as far as physics is concerned, the best of my research can show is that it's a hologram. And what's important to note about a hologram is that depending on how you look and from what angle you look at the hologram, you'll get a completely different picture. But it's still all one cohesive thing. And so when we're looking in through our eyes, we're saying, oh, this is what I am, and this is what the world is. But if you change it, you can say, like, this is how Nina sees things. This is how somebody else sees things. And so whenever, okay, back up. So what we're here to do, much of what we're here to do, is to witness and dissolve by witnessing, being present with stored patterned energy, which is in this world really disharmonious, incoherent. It looks like a mess. There's no beautiful pattern to it, because those incoherent vibrations were created when our perception was limited to just this physical world. We thought that we were separate. So we started to have things like fear, like shame, like guilt, helplessness, despair. And those are just words to describe disharmonious, really incoherent vibrations. And so some people call that karma. And in order for the general populace, let's just say that for now, to begin to see the bigger picture, the disharmonious vibrations need to be dissolved because, like all forms of light, our attention goes towards the light. And so those disharmonious vibrations, when there's a ton of it on the planet, um, we get sucked in by it. Just like when someone's got a soap opera on the television, you can't help but watch. You're like, oh God, and like get sucked into it. So everybody's sucked into this story. Well, in order to process it, it needs to be felt, it needs to be seen, it needs to be witnessed, it needs to be held. And the only way to authentically do that is to be really vividly in the story. Otherwise, you're just looking at a movie, knowing it's a movie, not actually feeling the full feelings of it. But the trick is that if you're completely stuck in the movie, then you just keep having more fear, keep having more guilt, more helplessness, more despair. So people are creating more of the same vibrations, not cleaning them out. And so that's where alignment comes in and is extremely important. And what we mean by alignment is so alignment with who we really are, which is the whole, which is the one. Now, when we talk about getting into alignment, another way to say that would be to become more open. And so if we were the witness witnessing the world and we had an eye and there's an aperture like a camera, the wider we open that aperture, the more we could see and the more energy could pass through us and dissolve, be seen, felt, witnessed, and dissipate. And so what alignment means is I'm going to go focus upon something that allows me to open more. It's going to allow me to feel more coherent vibrations like love, like joy, like peace, like serenity. Like, sometimes alignment just looks like having the courage to do anything because that's a more coherent vibration than fear. And then sometimes it means to be in acceptance, which is higher than that. And then logic and reason. And then eventually you can get to places like love. Or if you just want a shortcut to it, go play, because joy is this wildly open state of being that has very coherent vibration. And while in the state of joy, we get to see a much closer picture to what's true. So
Yeah.
play is like, man, if we can get to play, it's like a shortcut.
Yeah. And that's usually the shortcut that I take because I know that's what works for me so well. And just like you said, alignment in that way could actually look different for everyone. And I just want to like reiterate kind of what you were saying in different words, that if I stay in the painful place with someone or just in general on a certain subject because I think I deserve to also feel pain or etc., then all I do is create more pain, more of the same, more disharmonious energy. However, if I actually choose to open, like you said, have the courage to go do something else that allows me to open, and often alignment looks like self-care because we only open when we feel safe to open. So we are inherently safe, but we don't always feel that way. Right. So if I go, get a massage or go to yoga or meditate or go into nature, I start to reconnect with my truth that is, I'm inherently safe and I'm one and we're love and eternal consciousness. And then I can open into that space because I remember that I'm not unsafe, that I am safe. And then from this place of openness, because my attention is on what's true, that I'm safe, that we're one, that we're love, and that's what's really true, then I can get to a place of compassion for myself and for the other person. And then I get to bring that energy into that interaction where I'm actually dissolving the disharmonious vibration by being at a higher one, by seeing the truth and carrying that energy into an interaction. And like you always say, the most aligned energy in the room is the one that sets the tone. So if I come back from a higher vibration, meaning from a loving place where I can meet, in this example, my mother from a place of compassion and love and kindness and softness and openness, then often what happens, and what did happen for me, is that the problem just dissolves. It's gone. Right. It doesn't even need this like grand conflict resolution. It's I'm coming in with my love, and that is felt so rapidly that we both remember what's true for us, and that is what becomes the loudest vibration in the room.
Right. The more open we get, the more energy can pour out of us. And also the more open we are, the more we can see what's true. And so we're not reacting to the incoherent vibrations. We're now vibrating with coherent vibrations. And because energy and light are synonymous in this example, when we are vibrating as a really powerful, coherent light, and there's a lot of that light coming out of our aperture it's going to draw the attention of anybody else who happens to be in our field. And so then they're going to start to naturally stop looking at just the problem, because just like a moth to a flame, they're going to start looking at this bright light, and it's going to start to draw their attention towards more coherent vibrations, and they're going to start to open. Now, when both people are open more than they were, or even if it's just one person, we have access to, like you said, the word compassion. And compassion is synonymous with a miracle. And the reason why that is because the only way to dissolve stored patterned energy, the only way to dissolve the problem, is to look straight at it and feel it fully without resistance. But if we believe the story that there's something to be afraid of, we're going to be resistant, and we're going to actually create more fear. So only once we get into a place of our own peace, that we know all is well, we've gotten into our own alignment, can we then look back at them and the issue and the problem and begin to feel it without closing down. Now, that means we begin to dissolve the energy. And because we're a hologram, that means we begin to dissolve the energy, not just my energy and their energy, but the whole world's energy. Everybody's energy on that subject begins to dissolve once we hit compassion. Now, compassion, I just want to describe real quick what that means. It means I'm open in a state of love or above, but I'm also in empathy, meaning that I'm willing to feel the feelings of myself and others. Now, empathy by itself without compassion can be destructive, because empathy, when someone's feeling fear, just means that I'm feeling fear too. And so that's where we get the whole issues where empaths have these problems of spiraling down because other people have issues. Well, the solution is to take personal responsibility for getting really radically open and trusting that opening before placing our attention into others people's energy and fields. And then instead of spiraling down with them, we open up the space where the energy's processed, and everybody gets to experience the miracle.
Yeah. So that right there is exactly why it felt so profound when you had said to me, but have you cleared this path out of this jungle yet? And I was like, oh, okay. So it wasn't that I needed to know how to get into alignment from any place. It was, now I get to find alignment from this place, and this specific energy, which clearly is asking to be cleaned up by me because it's presenting itself, and I have the ability to do that, is what's ready to be cleared and to be cleaned. And so, if I, from this place, choose to find alignment and to witness this energy, then I get to do it not just for me and my mom or whoever else I'm involved with, but for the whole, that I'm clearing this path out of this jungle, and that remains forever. And I was like, oh, this is huge. Okay, amazing. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to share this in this way with you and I having this conversation, because most of the people who are matches to us and who are watching right now, like I can see the list of them, it's a ton of highly sensitive beings, people who are here to process that energy. And so I really wanted this conversation to inspire them to find their own alignment, even if they're in their experience, because it isn't just for us and our own experience. It's for the whole. And sometimes if we come from a place of, I'm going to do this for everyone, I'm going to do this because of my service heart, it can inspire us a little bit more to actually go do the thing that's really, really good for us, to find our own alignment and to give ourselves permission to get in touch with the truth that we're love, and that that's okay and necessary for us to do our work here.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about why outward focus is so valuable?
Yeah.
So when we're focused on the idea of self, that inevitably in the human experience means me in my body separate from others. And that very separation includes thoughts of fear, of shame, because shame, which is the lowest possible state of being that exists, that has a name, is the essence of separation. It's that I am separate. And guilt, helplessness, despair, any of those things, even pride, those are all separate based vibrations that exist when one is focused on the idea of I as in separate from the them. And whenever, just like when we're getting into alignment, we're taking the focus off of the incoherent vibrations and putting them on the coherent vibration, and that's what makes us open. When we take the focus off of the little I, we're taking the focus off of the incoherent vibrations that even make up the idea of separation, and we're placing it on something like service, which is love, you know? And even farther than that, we get into places like peace, where we feel so peaceful in loving others and acknowledging who they really are, and the joy and appreciation of who they really are, and the joy of being of service and offering something of value to others. So the act of being one who is in service allows us to immediately get back into alignment. Now, that can't come from the place of, where would you say, like when we're giving from our own cup, like we're saying, I'm there's a word for that. Martyr. When someone's like a
Yeah, I was just
martyr,
gonna say that.
like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm gonna give everything I have for them, and I'm gonna lay myself on the sword, and that is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking
No.
actually like I have opened and I'm excited and I'm loving being of service. And that outward focus immediately opens our aperture. We get to see a bigger picture. Our vibration becomes coherent and powerful. So it's a shortcut, a fast one sometimes, to getting back into alignment.
Yeah. And Sydney is just blowing you up with hearts right now, and I'm loving it. Now she's laughing at me calling her out. Someone had just asked if we could expand. Also, if you guys have questions, like go ahead and pop them in the chat and I'll try to see them. Someone just asked if you could share a little bit more, if we could share more about the importance of compassion and empathy. And so you just kind of touched on it, but I think there are like a lot of empaths that are starting to discover that they're empathic because they're becoming aware that what they're feeling, they don't have a story of their own to match it. But I know my Instagram DMs are like blown up all the time with people who are empathic and don't know what to do about it, and that it freaks them out. What do I do? What do I do? And I think that what you touched on is really important, that, you know, being an empath and believing someone's story is creating more of the same. It's generating more of the disharmonious energy that we're here to clean up and to dissolve into the truth. And so will you expand a little bit more about why compassion is so vital when you're an empath and having that, you know, experience of feeling someone else's feelings and maybe their story as well?
Right. I want to use an analogy of sound, just to give a feeling visual for how creation works. Everything's vibration, and so we're either creating vibration with, we could call it thought, and that'll work as a word. And then we're witnessing that thought come back to us in the form of experiences or thoughts or emotions or whatever it is. And if we use analogy of sound, you might say it's like if I come to the edge of a canyon and I scream into the canyon, and it takes a minute for it to echo back. And so in that time period, let's just pretend like you forgot that you were the one that screamed. And so it comes back and you hear a scream and you're like, oh my God, like someone's dying. And so you scream again because all you did was you heard these vibrations and you reacted to them as if they were real. And then you scream again and it echoes back out and it takes a minute and it comes back and you hear the scream and you scream again. And so this is the pattern of echoing back and forth that we as a world are in if we are not aware in an open place of what's really going on. And so in this analogy, then, if someone outside of ourselves is in a vibration of fear or whatever it is, and we sense it, we're listening to that echo back and we're feeling it in ourselves and then reacting to it as if it's real and as if it's us and as if there's something. So our brain does this great job of taking any vibration that it feels and senses and pulling up all of the thoughts in our memory that match that vibration. It's like the best librarian. It's like, oh, you have a feeling? Let me pull up the 10,000, thoughts that match this specific vibration relative to my experience. And then I'm going to be
You're
out.
getting a lot of response. I said you're getting a lot of response from this. So, and just to like clarify, it's not only are we viewing someone else in their story, if we just feel it, then we start making up our own story. So just like you're saying, we start pulling up all the thoughts that are a match to the thing we're feeling. Mm-hmm. And then from the sensing of someone else's feeling, now we've made up this grand story about something wrong with us, or now we have to go fix it, or things are bad, or, we just root into this, scream back and forth. And where there wasn't a story before, now there is one.
Now there is one. So now we're spewing out more energy, just like the energy we were observing, because we've personalized it. We're like, wow, if I felt that, it must be me. So let me pull up all the thoughts as to exactly why this must be me. And let me talk about it. Let me tell a story about it. Let me ruminate on it. Let me then, of course, play victim to it, as if now that I know that I'm an empath, I'm going to say those vibrations out there have embedded themselves in me and I can't do anything about it. That's actually not what happened at all. 90% of it was just, 10% is I witnessed a vibration. The 90% is, and then I personalized it, I reacted to it, I started making more vibrations like it, and now I'm a victim to it. I'm a victim to my own story. Because if we were to zoom out and get off the subject and not believe the story, as Byron Katie would say, ask, is this true? Is this story really true, or is there a bigger perspective to take on this? If we can get to the zoomed out place, then we don't have to believe the story. And so now we don't have to react to it and believe all of the little thoughts and memories and stories that our brain is, in its service to us, presented us. Like, here's all the things that match this vibration. We can just say, thanks for sharing. And that's not what's going on right now. And I don't need to react to it. And as soon as that happens, that person can enter into a state of a compassion instead. So instead of creating more of those vibrations, they're dissolving them now. Now, instead of contributing to the problem in the world, they're contributing to the solution.
Thank you, Sophie, for your very enthusiastic support. So I want to this conversation could go on for the next 6 hours, because this is basically what Z and I do in our free time anyway. So I really want to thank everyone who's joined us. There's a lot of you who have come and gone. And I wanted to ask you, what's the one sentence that you say when you're in that space where you're witnessing someone deep in their experience and you're able to feel it and you want to remain in the truth?
Yeah. If it doesn't feel like love, it isn't true and can be disregarded as unreal. Here's what I mean by that. If it doesn't feel like something like love or above, that means that my current perspective right now is so closed that I can only see such a limited part of the whole story that I'm confused. And I'm not seeing the truth about this. So if it doesn't feel like love, what the story I'm making up about it, it isn't true. And anything I can visualize, even if it appears to be real in the physical world, is still just a manifestation of vibratory energy. It is not real. It's a holographic projection. And so if it's untrue, then I can literally disregard the story as it appears to me now as completely and utterly unreal, just like dinosaurs on the screen of a movie theater that look like they're going to chase you and bite you because you got 3D glasses on. It's completely bullshit. And by using that statement and being so connected to that statement and being so open, I also add in a statement that says, in my defenselessness does my safety lie. I've experienced so many miraculous situations in which people were literally about to kill themselves and each other and even one time me with a knife. And by standing so open, stating that this doesn't feel like love, and so it isn't true, and I disregard it as completely unreal, and I open myself completely in compassion, allowing myself to feel exactly what that person is feeling and dissolving their energy that they have stored in an instant and watching them wake up like they were in a dream and be like, what just happened? And it's miracle after miracle after miracle I've been a part of and witnessed by using this process of choosing into a broader perspective, opening in compassion, and giving myself completely to the broader perspective of I am here to be in service.
Yeah. And one of the mantras, and you know, the word mantra is like floated around a lot, but what it really means, man means mind and tra means to protect. So a mantra is a mind protection, meaning like protect your mind from running away with a million different stories and getting, you know, ahead of itself. And so for those of you who are watching who are space holders naturally, or even for your business, uh, you know, one of the nuggets that you share so brilliantly is I love you and I don't believe your story.
Oh yeah, that one's
So I love you. Yeah, I love you and I'm willing to be with you in your experience of it, but I'm not believing that that's what's actually true. My attention is on the truth and I'm still here witnessing you and being with you in the entirety of your experience. But like that's the space that allows for a miracle to happen, because not only is the person across from you processing their own energy, but now I'm processing it from my really, really, really open place. So I'm able to move a tremendous amount of that energy and it just goes.
yeah. So that's the mantra that you meant for me to say. Okay, great. Um,
The other one, the one that you said, I was going to ask about later. So I was hoping they both came out anyway, and it doesn't matter what order.
Right. Yeah. So when I finally figured this mantra that you just said out, it was like a game changer for me because it's been natural for me to be the space holder since like third grade, and
Yeah.
so for me to finally get to a place where I could bear witness to just about anyone in no matter what they were experiencing and not get stuck and believe what they believed was true. I don't believe it's true, so I could stay open. There would be sometimes I would repeat 100 times in a single conversation inside me, I love you and I don't believe your story. I love you and I don't believe your story. This is a reminder that I'm watching a soap opera right now, that who's in front of me is actually perfection. They are God. They are the highest incarnation of all that is, reflected back to me in the hologram. And as I see them as their truth, then I'm vibrating as their truth. And so then they get to begin to see their own truth while bearing witness to me, whether they know it or not. I don't have to say anything. People can tell me a story for like 20 minutes and I'm just listening and being with them and not believing a word of any part of it that isn't like love. And instead, I'm witnessing the truth that I'm here with them as we witness those vibrations together and they are dissolving. And so people like finish conversations with me and I haven't said anything and they're like, damn, I feel better. And that it's gone. And so it's so different from like commiserating where people are like, yeah, me and my girlfriends, me and my friends, me and my whatever, we're gonna just talk about what's wrong. That's not a thing that's helpful unless somebody is there being with and bearing witness to the truth that they are powerful, they are safe, they are okay, nothing's wrong, we're gonna get through this, you're good enough, you're lovable, you're worthy, I love you. Like, that's what the truth is. But we're still letting the disharmonious vibrations, those thoughts, those words, be seen in the container with compassion.
Yes. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Ugh, this is fun. We should do this like every day.
Yeah. Who would like that?
Cool. So I promised Zachariah that
Can I
I
add
would.
something?
Yes.
Because it was part of your original forest analogy. We didn't cover something specific that felt specific to what you wanted to talk about, which is
Yes.
you are so good at getting in alignment. And so many people who have been practicing getting in alignment are good at it. But then every once in a while, something comes up that's like takes them out of the game. And all of a sudden, they're not in alignment anymore. And then a lot of thoughts can come up of self-judgment, like, why can't I get into alignment on this subject?
Yeah.
Or just get in alignment. And the reason why is because in that big forest that we're in, a path hasn't been cut from that particular vibration, that issue, that story that has its own texture, its own feeling. There hasn't been a path cut from that yet to alignment. And that energy hasn't been processed there. So it's actually a gift that we get to give both ourselves and the world whenever, even those of us who have gotten really, really good at being in alignment and being in compassion, when we're still faced with a story that just whacks us upside the head, that's the time to say, thank you. I get to now cut a path out of this part of the forest, which means I get to fulfill the purpose and the reason why I incarnated on this planet in the first place right now. Thank God I'm here. Let's do this.
Yes. And that's one thing you said to me because I had told you just how aligned I felt that whole trip. Hi, Vivi. And I remember feeling almost a little guilty that I had been knocked upside my head so hard from something that was so quick and small.
Yeah.
And and when you shared that I hadn't carved the way to alignment from the place I was in right now, and that was actually an opportunity. You asked me, do you want to have like a fun fluffy vacation for a week straight, or do you want to clean up some of the energy that is remaining to be cleaned up? And I was like, well, obviously I want to clean up the energy, that's why I'm here. And you were like, okay, cool, then do that. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, now I get to witness all of that disharmony and not make up my own story about how I'm bad and wrong. Now I get to just see this as part of my purpose. And
Yeah.
all I have to go do is really take care of myself and then revisit something from the place of the truth. And so it was really cool that we can actually tie in experiences that might not be our preference into, like, this is us living our purpose right now. And so like that goes from like, oh my gosh, I'm bad and wrong and I don't know what to do, to I'm in my purpose.
Yeah.
And living your purpose is not always going to be fluffy and fun. Like, you're here to do some work, right? Like,
Yep.
there's a lot of people that still believe that we're totally separate. So clearly there's work left to do here.
Right. You know, shit hits
And
the
we get to
fan
do it.
in somebody's life when they've spent the last like few years becoming really open, really spiritual, and then all of a sudden they hit some huge speed bump. And a lot of times people think that they did something wrong. That's just not true. They just got to a whole new level of what they were able to begin to process for the whole world. They're doing their job, and that's so exciting to begin to look at things like that instead of that there's some end game where all of a sudden their life is going to be perfect and fluffy and nothing's ever going to go wrong again because they're so good at being in alignment and they've finally gotten there. It's just not the thing. You just get access to bigger and bigger stories that we get to dissolve for the whole.
Yeah. And you know, my cousin just asked, like, how do I clear a path out of my trauma? And the thing is, like, what you're saying goes back to, like, when you heal yourself, when you do your own work, you do it for everyone. That it's for all of us. And I think that's why, you know, the people who experience group transformation with both of us
Yeah.
get such incredible results because they get to see us doing it too in real time. You know, like when I'm teaching my program, I'm going through it too again and again and again,
Yeah.
and I'm just working at different layers. And I consider myself a pretty masterful alignment, you know, shifter. Like I know what I need and I dedicate most of my time to getting into alignment so I can do anything.
Yeah.
And I still need to refine that process and to clear my own paths out of, you know, different places in the jungle. And just like you said, it's a process. We've chosen to be here and do this work. And until the entire world stored patterned energy is cleaned up, we are likely going to keep doing this.
And let's talk about the value of a space holder, because we're a hologram, there's no separation between me and you. There's no separation between you and anybody you work with. There's no separation between anybody and anybody. It's all perceptual. And so the idea that a lot of people have is like, I have to clean up all of my own trauma or whatever it is. And that's not the case. How it works in a relationship of a space holder and someone who is the one experiencing the story is the space holder is the one who is holding the alignment, holding the space open in the presence of the story. And now both people working together in that held space, one of them is bringing in the vibration that needs healing or to be dissolved, and the other one is holding open the door to the light. And in that dynamic, that's the space for miracles, no matter what the modality or the method is. There's often methods and modalities, but that's not what's actually doing the work. What's doing the work is the focus on the disharmonious energy from a very, very open place and allowing it to dissolve. So if somebody's having trauma, which usually means like their mind is so stuck on this particular story and these vibrations, there's so much stored patterned energy that they can't climb out of that hole themselves. That's the time to go get yourself a space holder or get into a container in which you can be witnessed in your story and everybody loves you right where you're at. That's why when you do group programs, when I do group programs, that's why everybody experiences radical, miraculous shifts in their life from wherever they are. Now, because they're not going to end up in the container unless the container is absolutely ready for them, because that's the kind of space we hold. And so when they end up in our container, then that container is the miraculous healing for them. The container itself, as we bear witness to them and work through the stories that are present. Then they dissolve and everything shifts.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And yeah, especially when it comes to healing trauma, you definitely don't have to do it alone. I know that all of my profound healings have come with a space holder, our friend here. And on that note, I do want to wrap it up because we've gone for about 45 minutes and I actually have a call. So, but Z is ramping up to launch another version of his masterpiece. And so I want to give you a couple minutes to let people know how they can find you if they want to work with you, if they want to know more, etc. Give them your invite.
Yep. So the Master Shift is I call it my master program because it's my highest aspiration and inspiration right now, which is to hold space for the space holders. You know, my purpose, my skill, my talent here is to be the one who can hold the big space for the space holders, the people who hold space for everyone else, the ones who it's hard to find space holders for, the ones who are ready to become something even beyond really good at space holding, to become the ones who hold this space for the miracle, the ones who actually see unbelievable, scientifically impossible, miraculous shifts in those lives that they hold space for and in their own lives. And this particular, every master shift has a theme. There's always like a texture to the energy. And the other night I sat down and started channeling what that theme is and just let it come through. And it blew me away, because what we're doing in this one is, the theme is devotion. And by devotion, I mean devotion to God, to the truth, to the bigger picture, to the one. We're not just alignment sometimes, not just focusing there sometimes. We're talking about giving ourselves over to the big picture, and then letting that be the thing that drives our life and miraculously shifts everything. And then watch as all of our little goals as humans make way for something so much bigger and more beautiful and more powerful than even that, something that we can't even imagine. And a lot of this one will be working on inner union between the masculine and the feminine. So it'll be dissolving the disharmonious masculine mind that has a lot of thoughts of I. You know, it needs things, it projects a lot, it wants things to be a certain way, it wants to control. Dissolving that, leaning into the broader divine masculine, some people call it the Christ consciousness, the witness, and then from that place being able to deeply surrender into the true feminine dance, the openness, the creativity, the expression, to being our true selves in ways we could have never even imagined was possible on this earth, on this planet at this time. And of course, all the results that will come from that. But that's the broader picture and the umbrella of what's happening in this master shift. And I'm blown away, and I'm stoked that that's what's coming.
Yay. Amazing. So if they are interested, is this container specifically for women this time, or are you open to having men in it as well?
I think it's supposed to be all women. So
Okay,
far,
cool.
I've got about 70% full on the program. That's how many
Yep.
people are like ready for it. And I think it's going to be a match to just all women this time.
Cool. So if you're a woman and this deeply resonates with you, you can reach out to Zachariah. He's tagged here, and you can send him a message, and he'll probably set up a chat with you and see if this is something that you're really ready to step into. I am also currently doing some discovery sessions for the next round of Experience Freedom, and that will start in September. So we have some time, but the retreat is in Bali. So I'm talking to people now because some people like to plan their travel far out in advance. Not us, but I'm excited about that. And, you know, my container is fully co-ed, and there's a lot of power in opening in the presence of members of the opposite sex and being witnessed and seen in your full experience without feeling the need to fix one another or make up stories about, you know, why we're feeling the way that we're feeling about each other as men and women. We're all in a neutral, open space together. So we do a lot of unearthing and healing of our trauma. We come together in retreat in person. And, you know, part of the reason why I'm able to hold such tremendous space and, you know, witness massive transformation and miracles in my programs is because of the depth of the work that I've done with Zachariah, really over 8 years. You know, he's helped show me what's possible for people by holding the space for me to really step into my own transformation. And then that's a gift that I've been able to share with others with my own unique signature and flair and the other tools and tricks and tips that I've gathered along the way.
Can I talk about you?
And what?
Can I talk about you? I want to talk about you.
I mean, I guess the person who I have a call with in the next 10 minutes is actually watching live right now. So Sean, if I'm a couple minutes late to our call, it's because we're doing this.
I want to talk about what I've witnessed and who you've become. Like this person, Nina, she came to me like over 8 years ago and was just so ready and committed to just cracking open. And I have watched her go from wherever she was to this incredible space holder. And I can literally see, having watched, sometimes I listen in on her calls when I'm in the next room. I just don't get to hear her voice. And I've also gotten a chance to interact with a bunch of the people that she's worked with. And it's so amazing to now stand beside you as a fellow miracle worker who literally gets to be the space in which traumas dissolve, radical shifts in all parts of people's lives, from love, from relationships to business, to their success in freedom, in having their whatever it is that they really want out of life, even if they couldn't even see the way towards it, all of a sudden start to break open and begin to actually meet themselves truly with a level of self-love and alignment that I don't think that any of them even knew was possible. And to watch how consistently everybody who works with you gets that result is mind-blowing. And I'm so honored to stand beside you and call you best friend and co-creator. And it's amazing. So
Thank you. I definitely wouldn't be who I am without you. And it feels really good that, you know, not only have you held me through such massive transformation, but you've also helped, you know, teach me to hold that space for other people. And then in my own, you know, becoming who I am as a miracle worker, I've always felt so upheld by you, and like, you know, you always stand in my power for me, and, you know, are willing to really stand next to me and show me what I'm capable of. And it's just been such an honor, and you're my best friend, so that's fun too.
yeah.
On that note, Z and I have also floated the idea of doing a program together and or a retreat together for space holders, because, you know, our unique gifts combine really, really beautifully. And we have talked about actually giving an offering to people that's more structured and not just those who happen to be good friends or clients of both of ours. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, we would love to hear that just in the comments, or shoot us a DM if you want. Thank you, Lindsay. There's like hearts blowing up all over the place. And that's something that's felt really good for us too.
Yeah.
Just because there's nothing that we love to do more than to have these conversations and to share what we've learned, and to really hold this space where people get to open to their own truth, that their love, that they can have whatever they want for their life, that it doesn't have to be hard all the time, that they don't have to do it alone, and that their creative, authentic expression is actually what their purpose in this world is. You're here to be who you really are, and cultivating that in others is just like the most exciting, warm, bubbly feeling that exists, I think, for both of us.
Yeah, definitely. And for clarity, we were talking about a program for everybody and a retreat for space holders. I think there was a little bit of difference. So the retreat would be for people who are like way in the game of already space holding, and that would be a container super specific to that vibe. And that would be so much fun to create. I'm really excited for that with you.
Yeah, next level retreats are my jam. So if you're interested, if you're a space holder who needs epic space held for you, and you're ready for that deeper level of devotion to the truth, reach out to Zachariah, because he's putting together a phenomenal group of women, and myself will probably be included, since I think this is the third or fourth time I've done the master shift with him. And if you're interested in stepping into your own self-expression, your own freedom, your own alignment, figuring out what that even means for you, unearthing and healing some of your trauma, and really connecting with a group of people who are ready to open and see you and hold and witness you. What I offer is a really co-creative, beautiful container. It includes an epic retreat in Bali. So reach out to me. We're both available if people just want to know more about what it is that we do. So I really, really want to thank Z for having this conversation with me. I kind of just felt like we're in our living room, and I think that we will definitely do more because of the amazing response and support that our friends and clients and a bunch of strangers that I don't know too have shown while we've been talking. So thank you guys so much for being here and supporting us and being open to receiving some of this brilliant knowledge that this amazing man has to offer, and some of my nuggets as well. We appreciate you so much.
I love you. Mwah. I love you all.
I love you.
Thanks, Tina.
Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.